Hello, everyone, our viewers, our listeners. Once more, we are back live on this radio station. Today with me is Naliaka, Mayor, and Deborah. Naliaka is a new face that is going to talk about a topic that is quite it's dear to us, and especially immigrants that have migrated or have come abroad. And to just introduce the topic today is on daring abroad. Daring abroad, especially for an immigrant, is something we relate with so much. It means like just trying to make it meet despite your background, despite where you came from. Now that you're in Norway, you just have to find ways out and just figure out how to work it out. No one normally gives anyone any formula, but you know what? For some reasons, we find a way of just working our ways, in maneuvering ways. So with me, Naliaka, and she stays in Austria. But before we continue, I don't want Naliaka to just introduce herself and just tell us a little bit about who she is. Yeah, thank you, Naliaka.
Okay, hello. Thank you so much for welcoming me to this program. My name is Nalia Kamaya. I come from Kenya, western
Mm,
part of Kenya, and I live in Austria since 2006.
yeah.
I'm a mother of three children, two wonderful boys and a girl, and I'm working as an assistant nurse.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you. Nalieka, you have such a solid background and a story behind this wonderful smile you're giving us. Could you tell us this where you are today? Could you tell us about yourself so that we understand?
Okay. My journey to Austria, or my journey to where I am actually, it has not been an easy journey because I myself, I grew up in a very poor background. My parents divorced when I was still very young, and
Mm,
my going to school was actually not rosy. I was not offered that chance. I never went to one school. I kept skipping from one school to another.
yeah.
There are times I skipped one term without going to school, or I went to school once a week, or there's a time I stayed home a whole year without going to school because I was like staying with one relative to another, skipping from
Mm,
one relative to another. And by the time I was finishing school, I didn't finish. So, and it was also difficult because there are times when I didn't have books, I didn't have a school bag, I didn't have clothes. At times I
mm,
couldn't even go home because I didn't have an underwear. So I could
mm,
not go to because of shame. At school, I never had friends. So at this moment, when you ask me if I have any friend like school friends, or I don't have anybody because I never had friends in school. Because of
mm,
my state, the way I was, I never had friends. Yeah.
mm,
So for me, being here is actually God's grace. Yeah. So before I came to Austria, actually in Kenya, I was working as a house girl. I worked for people in people's houses.
mm,
My salary was actually 250 shillings, which is actually €2. And so it continued like that for like, yeah, I don't know how many years until when I got a chance to come to Austria, and then I went and asked for asylum. And
mm,
from there, God was so good to me because after like about 3.5 months, I got my documents. And
mm,
then when I had those documents in my hand, I said, God, now show me which way. So I met people who actually made me, first of all, before I went to school, I was actually working in McDonald's. I worked in different places. And then
yeah.
got my daughter. My daughter was like around 1.5 years. So I met a
Mm,
friend. She told me, she said, hey, you don't have to go back to McDonald's. You can go to school. I told her, how can I go to school? I don't have papers. I don't have any certificate. I have nothing to show. She said, you
mm,
go. Then you
mm,
go to school. This is your chance. So I went home. I went on my knees. I said, God, if this is my chance for me to go to school, please make a way
mm,
for me. I went to, when people are going to apply for school, I also filled the forms, I sent them to school. And then when I went there, they said, they called me. First of all, you
mm,
have to apply. So when I applied, they accepted me. They called me. They said, you have to come. So I went there and they told me, where are your papers? I said, I don't have. They said, how do you expect us to admit you to school without papers? I said, I can speak the language. And that's God. And because me, on my way going, I said, God, if this is my chance, please don't let it pass. So we went to school. So they called us like 2 months later for an interview. We went to an interview about like 100 people, 120. So we sat with the interview and I passed the interview. So because now when I told them I don't have papers, they said, okay, you don't have papers. No, we'll give you an interview. If you pass, you can come to school. So I passed the interview. I was admitted in school. Yeah, so I was so happy. So I was so like, this is a dream coming true because this is the after school that is the only paper now I have to show. The only paper because I don't have any primary certificate, I don't have anything. So my first was going to school to study as assistant nurse. In fact, I wanted to do diploma. I could have done it, but because my baby was like 1.5 years, so I like all 3 years going to school, leaving her alone would not be nice. So I shortened my course to 2 years. So when I finished with school with a very outstanding certificate, and I was going to school people that finished university, people that were teachers, people that were working in accountants, people that had already worked before, but they gave up the job, so they want something different. So they decided to do this nursing. So I was sitting with them and I never gave up. Despite my background, I never looked down on myself and said, no, I cannot go, or or shy off and say I don't know, because actually that time I could not speak good German, but I did not shy off. Every time I said, God, if this is the chance you have given me, then make a way for me. And then before we started school, they made us write a piece of paper. And on that piece of paper, you have to assume that you have already finished school. And now you are writing what you have gone through. It's like you are prophesying for yourself what is going to happen. The first day of school, your paper and they say, okay, assume now you have finished school. Write for us what you have gone through. So me, I wrote mine. And exactly what I wrote is what happened. It wasn't that those 2 years because I could go to school, like leave my baby in the baby class. I carry her very early in the morning. She's still sleeping. I would drop her, and then go to school. My son was big enough, so he would go alone. So that is how I sailed through. But going to school wasn't easy because one thing is the language is not very clear. Number two, you are a foreigner. And then during the school also, I faced a lot of challenges. Being a black person, they would call you nigger. They would abuse you. They would tell you you have to drop out. You don't qualify to be here. You don't qualify to do these jobs. And then you would work with because you have to go like to do the practicums. They would tell you you are taking our jobs. They would abuse you all things. Yeah. But me, I never. I always used to tell them, I know that I'm black. I know that my language is not good. I know I'm a foreigner, but this is what I want. And if the government doesn't want me to do this, they wouldn't have admitted me to school. So that was, I finished school since 2015. I've been working.
Wow, congratulations.
Really, thank God. It's
Wow.
been a long. So, yeah.
Wow. I know it's like you want to really give it up. I just have a question. So you said like from Kenya, you came abroad, you didn't have even high school. No, not high school, like actually grade class 8. That is our Kenyan style. Like, yeah. So you didn't have that certificate. And now you are an assistant nurse. I mean, how did it happen? How did you get to that level? Yeah. It must have been like some sort of a journey. Because why I'm asking you this one, I want you to speak to someone who probably they don't have education from their home country, and then they've come abroad, either to Austria as you are, or in Norway, and they're like, I've never done anything from before. So here I am. Can someone even tell me to go to school? What can you tell this person?
For me, for example, when I came here, when they told me that the first condition is to learn the language. So I learned the language. I
Mm.
really took to learn I didn't go to look for money. Many of my friends would go start cleaning and doing this. But me, I would sit down. That time I didn't have the documents yet. So I would sit down and study the language. I really wanted to know the language. Because one thing is you go to the shops, I was struggling. So I used to take my dictionary with, because the names are written differently. I go to the supermarket, I want to ask something, the attendants would actually, when they see it's a black person, they would even go out or hide themselves because they don't understand English and they don't have the time to discuss with you or go around with you. So what do? I take the dictionary and look out the names, and then I would go to the shop and start looking for it myself. Or when before I go out to the shop, I will stay at home and start looking for those things that I want in the dictionary. Write them off
Mm.
the shop and start looking. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
number one. That which is very important. Then the other thing is education. Most of the courses in Europe or in Austria are offered freely. They're
Mm-hmm.
free. Yeah. So
Mm.
the condition was, once at least you have to work for about 3 years, then you
Mm.
are eligible to go to school to study something. So that's
Mm.
why I went. For McDonald's, I worked for Xlutz. I also worked in an hotel. In fact, the hotel where I worked was horrible because they treated me like that.
Mm.
I used to cook, make the beds clean, outside clean the cars. I used to do everything,
Mm.
but the pay I was getting was peanuts. Yeah, but mine
Mm.
was my goal was, if I finish these 3 years, then I can go to school. Yeah, so
Yeah. Yeah.
I never looked down on myself, and I also didn't allow people to look down on me just because I didn't tell them my background. I don't have to go around telling people I didn't finish school in Kenya, so I cannot go and study. No, I put myself, I was confident because I knew what I want. The course is free. Why not?
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. I went for it. I went for
Mm.
that course because such a course in Africa or in Kenya for once to pay for a nurse in Kenya is very expensive. And here the
Mm.
course is free. And then on top
Mm.
of that, the nurses are being sought everywhere. So means you will never lose a job unless you yourself you want. Like during this Corona time, many
Mm.
people have lost jobs. But I've been going to work since ever because they need me. They need
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
Wow.
What I would is like, if don't look down on yourself, even if you didn't finish school at home, even if you reached even class 4, you can still
Mm.
study the once you can write your name, yeah,
Yeah.
you can still the language, because even here in Europe we have people that have never been to school,
Yeah.
and we have
Mm.
people that have never finished school. So don't allow anybody to look down on you. Go for it.
Wow.
Don't say I am going to clean because I never finished school, because or look down, or think that you need a university certificate for you to go and study. It's not true. It's not
Wow.
the case. You can still go to school. Even if you didn't finish primary, you still have that chance to go and finish primary. I have friends who are working like a kindergarten assistant. They
Mm.
came and they went to finish primary, and then they did another 2 years school, and now
Mm.
then after that, they went and did the kindergarten assistant course. Now they are
Yeah.
working, and from there you can still upgrade. Like for me, for example, I can still upgrade if I want. I still have that chance, because
Mm.
now that I've worked for the last 5 years, I'm eligible to go on further to study if I want, because now I have the experience. So
Yeah.
just because you don't have a certificate, it's just a paper. But what they
Mm.
need is what is head.
Thank you.
Because
Wow.
we have all our certificates.
Mm.
But when them the test or the interview, they fail. I have a working colleague who was a doctor. He said he was a doctor in Bosnia. But when he
Mm.
came here, they told him he has to go and to school for 6 months to check the papers. So when he went, he failed. So
Mm.
now to go back and again do another 2 years to work an assistant nurse. And yet he's
Mm-hmm.
telling us the doctor back at home. So now his certificate, because he said he studied up to university, his master's or degree, everything is just ended up in the dustbin. Now he's working like me. Yeah,
Mm. Yeah.
down on yourself.
Wow.
Wow, that's something. I know, like, especially coming abroad, it's some sort of an equalizer, whether you had some education from before or not, and especially because of language, everyone kind of go back to, unless it's IT, because mostly it's IT courses and maybe engineering courses, that's when you might not need the language per se. But a lot of other courses, language becomes an equalizer. That brings me to the next question on integration, because language is also one of the major tools that is going to help you with integration. How is it like, Debbie, now you've been on holiday and back to us, so you'll introduce yourself
Mhm.
here and tell us how is it like to maneuver your ways and integrate in the system now that you come from abroad, probably you have school from before or not, language is a barrier. How do you integrate yourself in Norway and in Austria? So Debbie, you'll throw it. Thank you.
Thank you, Beatrice, Deborah, and it's nice to be back again after a long holiday.
Yeah.
Yeah, but before I answer that, I just want to comment on Naleka, what you just your story. It's
Mm,
really, really, I don't know. I'm sure someone was listening out there. It's really like maybe being in the same shoes. It's really something that uplifts someone. Yeah,
mm,
your story is just tremendous. So thank you so much for being here today to share your story with us. Yeah, coming to integration process in Norway, we know that yeah, integration on its own, it's kind of a controversial subject. But I would just take it as it is, as it's used by the Norwegian government. For those who come to Norway, like refugee status, and maybe under some certain humanitarian organization, they have
mm,
kind of a structured way of getting into the system. And I think it is very like something that anyone who is in that situation should really benefit from. They have what is usually called an introduction program, where they help them to get to learn the language, send them to some workplaces to get acquainted or to do um, what's called uplaring,
training,
like
practice.
training, like for example, hotels, canteens, hospitals, and places like that, so that it enables people to get into the work society and into the society at a very fast pace. So
Mm,
some many people have benefited from that. And well, for those who are still maybe just taking it as a joke, I think it's a golden opportunity for people under such status to use.
mm, mm,
And for others who came to Norway maybe for with work visas and other visas, how the integration process is kind of similar to that you just explained. You
mhm,
know, learn the language. You can ask, where do
Yeah.
I get to learn the language? We have
mhm,
what is called Vox Uplaring centers. There's
mhm,
one at Helsfyr, and I'm talking about Oslo, but I know it's found all over Norway. It's also called Vox Uplaring in the other cities. But like in Oslo, you have like Rosenhoff, you have Helsfyr, you have Sinsen, and many others. So
mm,
people should just go there, get information. You want to learn the language because there is cheaper. In
mm,
addition, there are like private schools that also offer languages. So language is always like the key to every door. You said
mm,
something
Yeah.
when you were talking about your story. You said when you went there, they asked you about papers, you said you didn't have, but you told them, I can speak the language. You know, that is something that made the people to kind of accept you. And it
Yeah.
shows the power of language. So that's one
Yeah.
important thing that everyone as an immigrant in Norway should try to
Yeah.
put themselves into learning. You said
Yeah.
maybe money is not usually the first thing. Yes, it's true, but the truth is that for most of us, when we come here, the first thing in our head, oh, I want to work, I want to do this. Yeah, money. But we forget like the long term. We think short term,
Yeah.
we don't kind of see the future. So I think it's a good thing. Like I'll also like base my talk on your story, because it's
mm,
really something that is really worth learning from. So it's
mm,
Yeah.
So when we get into learning the language, it will also help us into opening many shut doors. And then friends, they usually say make good friends. The ones that will tell you, people who have been here before, you know what? Go to school. Don't take it for granted. That's somebody who really loves you, who have you at heart. That's also a good way to integrate. Going to school, even if you never had any education, like in your case, you can always start somewhere. The opportunities, and as of now, education in Norway is still free. So that's a very easy way to get integrated. Also, there's something we usually call here dugnat. Dugnat, like it's like what they call community labor. It can be at your child's kindergarten, it can be at the school, it can be at the neighborhood. That's a wonderful place to get to talk with maybe your neighbors or other parents. And who knows? You don't know who you are talking to. You don't know what the person can offer you. So that's something. That's a place, or that's a situation where you can really get to connect with people, get good networks. So Dugnad will also refer it as a kind of a nice way to get integrated in the society, the Norwegian society. Another thing is, like you said, know the law, know the system, respect Norwegians for who they are. We learn, let's take their culture as it is. We take the nice ones, the ones that are helpful, and throw away the ones that you think are not good. In Norway, for example, it's very important that husbands respect your wives. So in order not to get into some unfortunate situation, it's very important that our men, I'll say our men, I mean like where I'm coming from, our backgrounds, we as immigrants, because usually our own way is not usually the same when it comes to this aspect. It's a little different. So this is it's an important aspect where we should also learn. We should learn from, and to avoid, that will help us to avoid some family conflicts. So that if I just want to leave it there for now, these are some basic ways one can get integrated into the Norwegian society.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that insight. I don't know how it's whether it's so different from how is it in Austria, but Naliaka, you'll answer that one. How is it to get integrated? And also maybe you combine with this one, is it easy to go to high school? Now you're integrating yourself, and how easy is it to upgrade yourself education-wise? Yeah, thank you.
Integration in Austria is actually pretty much the same as in Austria. Yeah. As I said before, you first learn the language, not be money focused. And then, okay, you said a good point, learn their culture, but learning their culture doesn't mean me leaving my culture and taking on their culture. I take on, I think this is actually moral. Yeah. Because I cannot force my culture and they cannot force mine. So I take something, because actually integration means I learn something from them and they can also learn something from me. Yeah, that's it. Not just that I have to learn, like I start dressing up the way do I start doing the way they, just because I'm in Austria, so now I do everything what the Austrians do. No, I don't do that. I learn, I respect. Okay, but do I have to take it? Is it moral? Yeah. How if I compare the culture from Austria and my culture, I have to. There should be a balance somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing is you have to try and find communities. Where do I get help? Like, where can I go to school without paying so much money in case you're not working? Yeah. And when I finish, I go to work, because like in Austria, we call it the IMS Arbeitsmarkt, where like they help you for work. Yeah. You go there. They even advise you like where to go and find courses. Like if you don't know the language, they will tell you where you can go for a language. If you are like, for me, before I started going to school, they will tell you where you can go and leave your child. Is a free kindergarten, and then you go and look for, yeah. They will give you places where they are looking for people for work, and you can go there and do. If you fail, you still go back. You still go back. You still go back. You don't give up. And when they give you an appointment, make sure you take it serious. Go to the appointment, not that they tell you and then you come back. Like we Africans, we are used to getting up late. Yeah, you think I will go and say, I'm sorry, my baby was sick in the night. Okay, you will do it the first time, the second time, the third time. They will tell you, please, we don't need you here. We want people that are serious to work. Yeah.
Yeah,
So at
definitely.
least you take the appointment serious. If they tell you, okay, your language is not so good, we are going to help you go to school, then go. Yeah. Okay. And then, as I said before, like if you want to upgrade, like to go to high school, the chances are there. You just you go to the right channels, find the right people, find the right community, the right offices. And like in Linz, we have they call it a black community. This black community is responsible for to support and help all the black people in our area, because we have people that speak French, speaking English, speaking Dutch, speaking like different languages from every country. You can find them there. Yeah. So if you go there, you tell them, okay, I need help. Maybe they will not help financially, but they will tell you where to go. Yeah, because that's why they are, that's their reason for being there, to support the black people, to find places, like to know where to look for work, to know, like if I'm looking for an apartment, how do I go about it, what do I need? Yeah. Where to go, like if you have a child, where can I look for my child for kindergarten, where can I take my child to school, where can I find the papers, I apply for visa or school. They always, this black community are there to support the black people. Yeah.
Wow. Thank
So
you.
that
That
is
was a
where
good.
you can speak the language. They will even tell you, you can even find out yourself, because I, like in my case, there are things where I made people who gave me bad advices. But and then I would sit down and think really true. So I would go and find out myself. Like I know the offices. Now, like now everybody in media, you can go to YouTube, Google, look for an office where you're looking, it will give you address and everything. You call them, you make an appointment, you go there, they will help you. So there is always help when you look for it. But when you just sit at home, and sorry to say, most of us black people, when we come, we say, okay, now somebody will tell you, in Austria, in Europe, there's money they give when you have a child. So I have a child today. Next year, I have another child. Next year, before you know it, I have 5 kids. I haven't learned the language. Yeah, learn the language. Now I will start looking for jobs for cleaning. I will clean here. Maybe tomorrow I will come late because one child will sick, or I have to take all of them to different kindergarten, different school. By the time I come to work, the boss will tell me, yesterday you came late, today also, so I'm sorry. Yeah. So you keep, we carry this mentality from home, we carry it forward here, which is no good. It's just giving a bad picture of the black people. So we at least have integrated before. Okay, having children is a good blessing from God, yeah, but what are the steps first? Let me ensure my future first. Let me ensure that even if I have a child, when my child starts going to kindergarten, I can go to work. Not sit at home again and think, now I don't have a job. So what do I do? Let me make another child. Yeah. So you keep making children. You go to, like I've seen many women go to the doctors, they have to take their children with them for the children to translate. It's a very bad picture. Now, if you are going to the endocrinologist and you have your child and you're having something private, how will you explain to the doctor that one? It's difficult. Yeah. That's why
Yeah.
learning the language is actually a number one condition. A number one condition. And the other thing for me, I feel is also very important. We should not, we learn the language, we learn the culture, but we should not leave our culture. We should not come like me, I'm in Austria. So I have to make sure my children don't speak Swahili, don't speak English, but they speak German. I find that to be very wrong. Yeah. Our children has to learn the culture from us, but they also have to learn the culture from my country, because this they feel lost somehow. They are speaking a foreign language, but they are not being considered as Austrians. They are being considered as foreign. If I go with my children to Kenya, they're being considered as foreigners because they don't speak the language. Yeah. So it's very good to integrate, but please don't leave your roots. Teach your children your language. It's
Wow.
very important.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I will actually add, there are some major points actually you've mentioned there. But Debbie, could you just tell us a little bit on how easy it is to come up in the education, like upgrade yourself educationally? Then I'll chip in a little bit. Yeah, just
Yeah, there are many foreigners out here who have very high educational qualifications,
yeah.
A lot. Where you meet some people, like, let me say, like where you are, Beatrice at Mount
Yeah.
Yeah, there are people who have, qualifications and masters and whatsoever, but you see that they don't have some, they're not having some form of good job. Maybe they are still doing some menial jobs, if I can call it that way. But that is something that kind of ties some people down, because some people say it like, oh, I have this qualification, I can't take myself down. And you'll be there year after year, you're struggling, just be pushing yourself. You're struggling to look for jobs, learning the language, because I've seen situations. They look for jobs, learn the language, go for courses through NAV, but at the end of it all, it doesn't take them anywhere. So that's where now there's a trend these days, and I think it's really is helpful. People have come to realize that, let me forget a little bit about those things. Let me go into the Norwegian educational system. They go to like Vox Opplæring. You meet the counselor there. You go to universities. You meet the counselor. They give you free study counseling for free, where you get to know, maybe you have to take certain courses to get qualified or to change your field entirely. Because even with this COVID-19, there are some jobs that have just been slashed out. And it is kind of seen that, like, if I can mention this, the health system is one of the most, the most fruitful place to be.
Frontliners, yeah.
Yeah, the frontliners. You see, the health workers are always needed. So there's a lot of people who are also these days changing their field of studies. So go to a counselor in the universities, in the vocational upline, they are free, and you'll be told what you need depending on what you want to study. And many jobs these days in Norway, they also ask for what we call a fagbrev. We call a fagbrev. It's like a diploma. And Nalaika is like a diploma for certain fields that maybe before they didn't really ask for any, documents. But these days, they want people to be knowledgeable, to get some certificates. So there's a lot of fields that are asking for fagbrev. So if maybe one belongs in such an area, why not take it? You upgrade yourself, your salary goes up, and by so doing, your life to get better. So it's really kind of easy to, it's determination, and it's determination, getting the right information. All of that play a very crucial part to getting the necessary information. And I think it's easy to go back to school in Norway. No matter the age, one can always make a turning point depending on where you want to put yourself.
Wow. Thank you so much. There are things that you guys have mentioned, so I'll just mention them. Naliaka, you talked about identity. Keeping your identity is very important, because this culture, you are like in the middle. You're not Australian, you're not Norwegian, you're not Kenyan, you're not Cameroonian as baby. You're left somewhere. So it's very important for you to have a healthy staff. You have to stand and still identify with your culture. There's also something you've talked about, which is assimilation. One can never be like, how can I say, a stranger to their culture. If you just throw your culture everything and want to fit into a new culture, you'll always find everything crashing for you, because you can never be, I will never be 100% Norwegian, but I appreciate everything. They have invited me, they have welcomed me, but my color already puts me out. My language already puts me out. My dressing style, my food, so it's very healthy to integrate, but it's not healthy to assimilate. So that is also something I think very important you brought it. And I know our kids who are born here, they are really fighting with identity issues. So it's good to also give them a little bit knowledge of, this is where I come from, this is where your dad come from, this is where your mom come from. As much as we stray here, this is like home, but take a little bit of, if I go back with you to my home country, you'll find a way of appreciating that old grandma in the village. You'll find a way of identifying with all blacks around you, doing all that type of food, fufu, ugali, and stuff like that. So that you just find yourself comfortable. And then the language. It's good to know even how to say hi to your old grandmothers and your cousins. I like that one, and the way you guys have also mentioned, Debbie, it's easier to it's free education in Norway. So someone need to just get, even if you need to totally change your field of study, you might need to sacrifice that, because if you wait too long, you might regret when things are not just working out. So the earlier the better. It's good to make money. You have to pay bills. That is very important, but then just think about the future in the next 15 years, in the next 20, 30 years. If you want to see yourself there, it's okay. But if you want to see yourself somewhere else, will be good to upgrade yourself. I'm just breaking something here.
Let me just add something, because so that maybe someone listening to us shouldn't feel like, oh, I must go back to school, and that it might not be everybody's case to go back to school.
Definitely.
Yeah, because there are some people who have certificates which maybe what they need is just for or it's a good shenin.
Just to, oh my goodness.
What's the word in English again? Is it to good shenin is like accepting, like to check them and see, like, what I say, to not to qualify. What's good? My God, you see how you see we are learning the language, and another one is getting off our heads.
Just get your language maybe accepted.
Approved. Yes. Yes, that's the word. So to get your document approved, because it's not everybody maybe who has to go back to school, who has to take some courses. For some people, it's just to send through. It's called NOKUT for maybe newcomers of Norway into newcomers to Norway. It's called NOKUT. You send your documents there, and it's approved, and then you can start applying for jobs. We know cases like that who have also done that, and they have gotten good jobs.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Also,
okay. Sorry, I have a friend who's a doctor. He came from Kenya, and he did them, and he just went to approve it, and he has to study like for about 6 months, and now he's working like other. So it's possible.
Thank you. And we have to mention this. There are those guys who are blessed with the work of the hands, make use of the skills, handiwork, In abroad, those handiwork also really pay. So if you can make use of that handiwork, you don't need to go to school like getting, if that is not your area, you can use your talent, your natural talent. It's also very appreciated here, or just the work of your hand. Thank you so much for that, guys. I'll be changing a little bit now. Nalieka, you talked about the camp life. You had to go to the camp. Now, following news, we see people in Hellas, they're having it tough. The camps were banned. Some people have lost their, homes, and it's tough for someone who's staying in the camp. How is it like to be in the camp? And what can you test someone who already the decision makers, the politicians, what should they consider?
Well, when I was at the camp, I had friends, and I had good friends and bad friends. Good friends to study. We didn't know whether we'd get documents,
Yeah.
but because we needed to communicate, so the
Mm.
foundation remains the language. Yeah, because once you know the language, you can also you can communicate yourself. You can go out and express yourself and say, "This is the problem I have." But then,
Mm.
if you don't know the language, it means the if they want somebody to communicate with you, they always have to get somebody to translate. So it
Mm.
proves somehow very difficult. And then the other
Mm.
thing is that camp life is, it depends on actually what you want, because some people will sleep all day, some people will drink alcohol all day, some people will go
Mm.
walking all day. So it depends. Yeah. But the other thing is, there are people that are actually there in the camp. I have a friend who has actually gone and did the assistant nursing course, but she
Mm.
doesn't have paper, so she cannot work. And then you
Mm.
have these people that even say one word of German. They
Mm.
have been given paper. What are they doing? They're sitting at home doing nothing.
Mm.
They have the document, but they are not even interested in the language, because they are getting support from the government. So why work? And then you have somebody here who's actually as integrated. She can speak the language. She has gone to school. She has the certificate, but she cannot work. So this, I
Mm.
find it to be a little unfair. Yeah. And
Mm.
then in the camp, there are many teachers there, because like me, when I was there, I met a lady who told me, "Hey, before if you want to get paper, you have to get married." Yeah.
Mm.
So you rush for a man to marry so that you can get papers. But me, I still mention, I went down on my knees and said, "God, this is not my portion. This is not my portion. If this is how it has to be like this, then I would rather go back home. But I'm not doing this." Yeah.
Mm.
And really go. But you will get many teachers. So please, when somebody is in the camp, be careful. The life there is actually somehow is boring, because if you cannot work, but make yourself useful. I have people that, like my place of work, there are people that don't have papers, but they come and spend time with the patients, because they're integrating, they're learning the language, they're showing the government or the
Mm.
political, the lawgiver, that we would like to work. We don't want to
Mm.
sit at home. We don't want to sleep and wait for money. We would like to work. Yeah.
Mm.
And then you find people that have been given papers. What do? They sit at home all day doing nothing. So at least if they could consider, try to observe somebody, what are they doing exactly before,
Okay.
giving them papers. Yeah.
Mm.
Because one, you have to make yourself useful, not just lie at home and say, the government is giving me money. Why should I bother working? It's not right,
Mm.
because the government will give you, at a certain point, this money won't be enough, or it will not
Mm.
help you at all. It's good to
Mm.
have something for yourself, not just to be a receiver on the receiving end. Have also to give
Mm.
back something to the government. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And
Thank you.
life is not
Mm.
easy in the camps. Depends on
Yeah.
why you're doing, but it's good to make yourself useful.
Yeah, I know you could have really told us enough about the life in the camp, but because of time, we'll have to bring you back because that is actually another thing. Some people's visions die in the camp. When you don't know, like you've been there for 10 years. I meet people who have been in the camp for 15 years. It's like I left dreaming long time ago. How can you dream? You don't have papers. You're just there. You don't know about tomorrow. You're just in this circle. You don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. So, and maybe that is how you're sending it to any lawmaker. Please consider. There are people who have a dream. There are people who have a passion to do something, but we cannot do something. So, you guys, anything from the back of your mind as we close. Debbie, you will start, and then Naliaka, you close it. So, just final word from your heart, Deborah.
Yeah, I think it, yes, like you said, life in the camps is not easy. I haven't experienced it, but I know some people who have mentioned that it's not that easy for them. So
Mm,
of course it's a call out to all those involved, all the stakeholders to look into the people's plight and see maybe a faster way of making or of ensuring that people get like integrated into the society. We know in Norway from 2018 there was a new law that makes it lead to go faster. Yeah, so it's just to see, like, just put our voices together and say that they should just keep helping out these people who are there, because I'm sure most of them have talents and they have a lot to share out.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Nalieka, just some few seconds, just from the deep down your heart. Yeah, your last words.
Okay, what I would say is, as you said, actually the lawgivers, they should consider some people, because if you don't know where you're heading, you're just kept in the dark. People tend to lose hope. Many of them commit even suicide because they don't know what's happening out there. Even while people are waiting for their documents, they should at least keep them busy, keep them so that they don't, because an idle mind is the devil's workshop. So they should keep them busy, keep doing something, however little. Yeah, if it wants to try, instead of just letting them sleep in the camp all day long, because now they lose hope. They feel left out. They feel forgotten. Yeah. So it's not, those are just the ones that are lying down there in the camp.
Thank you. Thank you so much for our viewers. Thank you, everyone. One thing I've learned today is just like, well, it's good to upgrade yourself, but it's not the ultimate thing. So you can do, hi, you can do like, you can I just get convinced. It was good to see your daughter as well coming on the show. It is good to get education, but it's not for everyone. Someone can do handiwork, someone can do, you just do education and get some courses to fix things back and forth. Otherwise, thank you so much, and until next time, have a good evening. Bye.
Bye,